Okay, we'll convene the Personnel Committee at 6:29. Voting members of the committee: Hadwell, Wilson, Pep, and Isabel. We do have one add-on this evening, and it will be discussed in place of the tabled resolution. So we'll get to that probably second or third on this agenda. I have one item for discussion for upcoming meetings with respect to personnel. Really, there are two items that I would like to see the legislature look into going forward. The first is reestablishing the auditor's position. Earlier this evening, we addressed one of my pet peeves about county government with respect to the cost for snow plowing contracts. We got that addressed. I'd like to see this reviewed by the legislature. Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you select the appropriate committee to revisit the position of auditor. I've long held and felt that simply reviewing expenditures really does not really serve the purpose of an audit. We don't really, I think as legislators, when we look at some of the billing, we're not sure whether or not these items were sought out in a manner that's consistent with the city's purchasing policy and a whole host of other reasons really why I think we would be served by having an auditor. So I would at least like to discuss that going forward. The second item, and not for nothing, but that auditor's position I think was eliminated with the Board of Supervisors when there was somewhat of a bloodbath with respect to purging positions and such. And I think that personalities came more into play rather than the actual value or worth of the position. And so I think even the job description is written in such a manner as to be very exclusive. So going forward, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we address that perhaps through this committee or in a note.
Sure. And I think also, there's a couple of ways of looking at it, and should the auditor position be part of the legislature? My own feeling is, and it's only there because of the charter, that the auditing of the bills, I would think would be under the executive branch. So that would require a charter amendment. We put together the budget, we give it to the executive and department heads to live with, and the bill paying I don't really see as part of our responsibilities, but I think so it would be a twofold evaluation where we in any event have to look at the charter to remove the things that are there that possibly or not possibly that don't belong there, and they may be removed without any issue because I think they're illegal to be there. The only qualification for the auditor is the civil service requirement as far as any restrictions or anything that I feel is that has nothing to do with the charter or shouldn't have been in there to begin with, possibly illegal being in there. If not, it's just inappropriate. Then the other part is if we do decide it's part of the legislature, then I think we definitely need to discuss it and also the funding portion of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? The second item that I wanted to talk about would be to go back and revisit the original intent and the manner with which an assistant to the clerk of the legislature was laid out. Here too, I think there was really some situational politics being played at the time that positions were maneuvered around and such, right when our legislature was established, for a lot of wrong reasons which we need not get into. So on a more positive note, I think I would like to hear the board discuss the value of putting that back in place the way it was originally.
I mean, ideally, we do budget finance workshop, we could have a personnel workshop after that, and also any presentation, so, Madam Clerk, if you want to schedule that for our next,
In June?
yes.
Okay, does anyone else wish to be heard? That's the privilege of the floor. If not, we're on to the resolutions. The first is a resolution amending the operating budget and establishing the position of Assistant Deputy County Clerk. Pardon? This is the amended one. Right, to part-time position. Okay, and I understand that this has been reviewed and submitted by,
Yeah, the add-on is the new resolution.
everyone has that?
Yes.
Everyone has that, the resolution right now, the sponsorship was pulled, so unless somebody wants to re-sponsor the first one, we have the add-on. I'll sponsor the add-on.
Okay, so we're just going to let the other one lie. Okay. So
Second.
we're putting in this place, we have a sponsor for the add-on, that's Leader Pep, and the second, Isabel. Further discussion here?
I'd like to discuss this. You know, I'd be the first one in this room to complain about using fund balance for anything. I voted past 2 years against the budget because I didn't want to use as much fund balance. But in the position that we're in right now in the clerk's office, you've got an increase in the workload because of fiscal permits and because of scanning of over 1 million documents going back into 1990. And I really would like to see if we could support putting it back into a full-time position. And I'd like to explain why I'd like to do that. First of all, the county clerk has probably been one of the best budgets that we've dealt with out of all the departments in the 3 years that I've been here. She doesn't put in kitties, she doesn't put in excess money, she doesn't over budget, and she always stays very close to budget. And we really never do transfers for that department. We don't make it a habit of using fund balance for that department. I really think that you're going to find in the next 6 months is going to be important. We can worry about after January 1st because the clerk can put it in her budget for next year. Well, I've talked to several legislators and you know, there's some support for keeping it full-time and there's others that don't want to do it because of using fund balance. When we're looking here at funding, we're transferring $13,000, almost $14,000 from the bed tax to cover a part-time. So that means we're actually about $12,000 off providing for a full-time position. When you're going in and you're hiring someone, especially in this position, there's going to be training involved. So the whole part-time position that you have is going to be used in training. It's not going to be productive, okay, but it's needed. So I'd like to consider whether we could move it to a full-time position for the balance of the year and take a measly $12,000 out of the fund balance, which is minimal compared to what we used in contingency to pay for raises and things like that so far this year. The way that we're setting it up, it's probably too strong of language to say that it's punishing the clerk for running a tight budget, but the truth of the matter is because she ran a tight budget, there's no room in there anywhere to fund this position. The clerk's office is one of the departments in our county government that brings in funding. handles funding. Fortunately, all the money goes into the general fund. So there's never really an excess if you budget properly. So I don't know if anybody would like to comment on what I just said,
Well,
but
before we get into the merits of that, I just want to straighten out where we're headed with this, because right now, what I've done is I've because the full-time position was laid on the table, and someone submitted this evening the part-time position as a different resolution. We skipped over the legislation that's on the table, which is the full-time position, and we went to the part-time position. If you want to, of course, you can always make a motion to remove from the table at the next meeting. However, if you want to try to sort it out here tonight through discussion, maybe we can come to an agreement. But we really should you should know that is always available to you, because that was a motion that was already moved to the legislature. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, or you could amend this resolution.
Okay, so you can amend this resolution to make this the full-time.
Sure.
Yes?
If I'm reading this correctly, with fringes, it brings it to 41.8. So if you're just looking at a 29.4 compared to the 14,000.
No, that was a full-time.
No.
That's for full-time.
That was for a full year. That was about 29,000 for a full-time position for the rest of the year.
Right.
that was for a full year, the 40.
Okay. So 29.4 includes fringes. Thank you, Chair.
All right, so then you have available, yes, Sean?
One thing is that I don't have a figure, but one item that is missing, that is, if it's put to full-time, there is a county cost for health insurance too. The full-time person would get health insurance.
But Sean, do they start immediately, or is there a delay for that?
There's 30 day.
But if-
30 days.
But if the person is already working within the county, there wouldn't be an additional cost.
If they're a full-time person currently.
If it goes in as a part-time position, won't whoever gets that position have to be trained anyway? And could they not become a candidate for the full-time position next year when it can be incorporated into a budget?
Yes.
And the primary candidate, because of that training and background?
My understanding is that that's true, but the problem is that we have a couple situations with health coming up within the next 6 months. Two very serious conditions. One is ongoing and one is planned.
We shouldn't be discussing personnel issues.
Right, okay. Thank you.
I would be in favor of supporting the full-time position. Just generally speaking, I think we need to support departments, especially where the department head is trying to deliver, trying to do a good job. Typically, these suggestions don't come up because people are trying to create positions. They come up because somebody's trying to get the job done. They see a better way to do it. And I think that the full-time position would enhance the work that's being done there. So my tendency would be to support that. If you were to make a motion, I would second it.
I'm not committed.
Okay, all right, then I'm going to move that to full-time and see if I can get a second.
Are we going to use?
Anyone can make a motion in a second. Only the committee can vote on it.
So I'll make a motion to amend that.
Okay.
Is the amendment to fund it partially through the bed tax and then partially through the fund balance
That would be my idea.
as a full-time position for the rest of the year?
Yes.
So if you're amending, we should be pretty specific about what exactly you're amending in this.
Amending it to be a full-time position and that, do you have that go back to where?
Wouldn't it be easier to use 114, the one that we already have, and just take part of it out of, just change the transfer from, for the bed tax and the fund balance? Because otherwise, we're going to be amending the entire resolution.
We're gonna have to amend the other one too. I mean,
You're just gonna add a funding line.
whichever.
We're just going to add a funding line on 114, everything else would be the same.
So if we were gonna do that, then whoever has the sponsor in the second for this one would have to withdraw, and the tabled resolution, you could reintroduce it.
You could
You see, these are competing resolutions when one still is technically just on the table till the next meeting.
Right.
Last month.
It was tabled in committee, and then the sponsors and seconds withdrew in this committee.
I think just the
They did.
sponsor withdrew.
Just the sponsor withdrew
So
in
he
this
could
committee.
re-sponsor, I think, right?
So, yeah.
Patel and Isabel were the original sponsors.
Or if we want to just, maybe the easiest thing to do would be, if we have a moment, just go on with the other resolutions on the agenda, revise the format of the one that, the full-time one, to change that line, so it's a new resolution, and then somebody could sponsor and second it, and just have it with no amendments. We could do that last.
Just the new one?
Yeah, we have part-time, we have full-time, but full-time would need to be amended. We could go through the other resolutions on the list. While that's going on, we could draft up a new one. And then somebody could sponsor a second, and we don't have to do an amendment, just bring it up as a brand new thing.
Does anyone opposed?
Then we don't have to worry about dropping sponsors, bringing up new sponsors, just.
Does anyone opposed to just simply retracting the original resolution? All set? So would you like me to go on to the others while you do that?
Yeah, do you have a computer set up?
Happy to do so.
What are you looking at doing? You want to add,
The bed tax contribution line.
and then the rest from fund balance?
Sean, I think we might need you to come over here for the figures.
Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank the county
Here, we
clerk
can take a recess. You want to take it?
for
Can we
this.
take recess for a minute?
The detailed package that you submitted to us the other day with all the backup information in support of the position. I think you did an excellent job on that. I wanted to commend you on that. It's exactly the type of detail we were looking for, and it proved the point.
That's right. Thank you so much for mentioning that.
Oh, there's no question. I think in some respects, it was just the misfortune of the resolution coming up, seeking fund balance at a time where we're trying to protect it, and it was the first episode where we were seeking more detail in order to substantiate it, and I thank you for that.
At least you know what was doing wrong.
I
You
know.
would not know that.
It's good to have it in a documentative fashion, and like you submitted, really supportive. It helps, the optics of it are advantageous. It helps substantiate it.
The things that, the questions that you asked, and we knew to produce all the reports, because we have all that.
And that, you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
You did an excellent job.
Yeah, and this is a time when we're doing that kind of documentation on everything now.
Correct.
So,
Just don't want you to think it was any kind of singling out. It was just a matter of clarification and the timing of it. Looking for more details so that we could make an informed decision. Thank you.
A lot of work.
all right.
Chair, can we take a recess? For like 5 minutes? Can we take a recess for like 5
Sure.
minutes? Thank you.
Motion to go into recess for 5 minutes.
Make.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to reconvene. And I think the first order of business, given what we've done, is to have the sponsor withdraw the part-time. Okay, so that is withdrawn. Oh, we gotta wait for show. So that'll be done. Which means that we can go on to the next resolution. I may have lost my place here. I know we have one, an economic development specialist. I think that's next. Resolution amending. Yes, the part-time resolution was withdrawn by the sponsor.
So I gave you the new one.
Yes.
We're going to do that.
Okay, then we'll do that one
Okay.
first. So in its place now, we have the new resolution, which would involve the part-time, the full-time position and all of its attendant funding. So we have a sponsor for that? I can sponsor that. And we have a second? Okay.
For Tal.
It was Dan.
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
Is there any further discussion?
Sure. So we're still taking 30,400 out of fund balance? I do see that it's
Yeah, that is not changed.
141 for remaining salary, but why is there 30,000 coming out of fund balance? Well,
County cost for somebody to have health insurance is 12,500.
regardless, if it's, so it is 12,000, okay.
Further discussion?
Confused. So are we talking about
Yes.
economic development or? are we
No,
talking
we're on the actual resolution. I just, since she'll come back, I moved the full-time position.
So just to clarify Bob's point, he asked if somebody was hired within. The problem is you hire within, it creates another vacancy. Eventually you're going to be hiring a new person that's full-time. And a full-time employee is granted health insurance. So you don't pay health insurance on a new employee.
For full-time. So
For a full-time
So it's
position.
going from 26, or what we were thinking, at 29.4, now to 44. So now it's considerably more than a part-time salary. We were thinking originally of, 14,000. Now we're more than twice that. I'm not saying that, we should fund that, but just be aware of the $30,000.
The numbers, right. Anyone else? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed or abstentions? The motion is carried to the full legislature. And now we're on to a resolution amending the 2017 operating budget, eliminating economic development specialist position, and establishing a grant assistant position. Ken, did you wish to be heard on this?
There's questions, I'll answer.
Okay, first we've got to move it. We have a sponsor, Roy, and a second, Mike. Okay. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed or abstentions? The motion is carried to the full legislature. The last item is a resolution amending the 2017 operating budget and establishing a seasonal or temporary structural maintenance helper position in Public Works. Do I have a sponsor? Excuse me, Headwell, and second, Diamond. Is there any discussion here? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed or abstentions? Is there any other business for the committee? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a sponsor in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Meeting's adjourned at 7:03. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call the Budget Finance Committee meeting to order at 7:02 and remind everyone that this is a committee of the whole. We all have a vote and we can all sponsor. Are there any items for discussion before the committee? Hearing none, we will move on to a series of several resolutions tonight under this committee. The first being a resolution authorizing county treasurer to disperse mortgage tax money. We have a sponsor for that. Legislator Headwell, second Legislator Patel. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, carries on to full board. Next item on the agenda, bond resolution. And we have a series of 4 bond resolutions here in order. A bond resolution authorizing lane reconfiguration and utility work for State Highway 5S and the Florida Business Park within the county for a cost of $1,500,000. And we all know that this pertains to the Dollar General project, and I'm looking for a sponsor of this resolution. Legislator Wilson, a second. Legislator Patel, any discussion on the matter?
I just want to
Chairman
thank
Diamond.
Ken and his team for all the hard work they've done on this whole entire project and putting this thing together. It was awesome, awesome job.
Thank you, Ken. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, that carries the full board. Our next bond resolution is a bond resolution authorizing certain renovations to the buildings and facilities of Full Montgomery Community College for an aggregate cost of $225,000 to be authorized with the issuance of serial bonds, and I'm looking for a sponsor for that motion. Legislator Headwell, do we have a second? Legislator Wilson, any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, that carries. On to the next bond resolution, and on this one, I want to point out to the clerk of the legislature that there is a, before we get into it, let me get into it here. There's a typo in the body of it. I gotta find it here.
Section 3.
Section 3 refers to a total project cost of $2.3 million, and that is a typo. It should be a total project cost of $1,340,000.
Duly noted.
Thank you. Okay, so this bond resolution is authorizing construction of an emergency management garage and storage facility within the county at an aggregate cost of $1,340,000 to be paid for through the authorization and issuance of $1,340,000 worth of bonds. Do I have a sponsor?
Sponsor, Chairman.
Chairman Diamond, do we have a second? Legislator Wilson, any discussion on the matter? Yes, Legislator Patel.
Wasn't there a grant of like $650,000?
Yes,
It's up to 50%. If I can.
it's mentioned in the body of the resolution. Our cost will be 50% of that, 50% state reimbursable.
The 1.3, we're really only bonding for $650.
No, we have to bond for the whole project, and because we have to front the money and then get reimbursed based on submission of costs as we incur them.
This is all, do we have bids and associated with this, or cost estimates? Yes.
Gentlemen?
No, we haven't had any bids. It was part of the capital project, the approved capital project plan for 2016 capital project plan. There were cost estimates at that time.
Just to clarify, Legislator Patel, we can't proceed at all on a capital project until funding is secured or approved. So, like I said, until some type of financing is approved, nothing for the project to begin.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer. Legislator Sweet, did you want to comment?
This says it's being built within the county. Is it being built up by the new building, or
That's the plan, it's going to be up by,
someplace where it's not going to be?
up by the public safety
Or is it
center,
not gonna be-
property somewhere, I'm not sure the exact location.
And that certainly was one of the ironies here, that our public safety building was smack dab in the middle of a flood zone, and our two most devastating emergencies in the last 10 years have been floods. So, so certainly a case in point why we need to act and move on this. All right, any other discussion on this resolution?
Chair, I'd just let the legislature know that this was in our 7-year or 10-year plan a couple of years down the road, but because of the bonding, or because of the grant, we moved it up to this year. So that was a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Diamond. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, that carries the full board. And just to reiterate, all 4 of these bond resolutions were part of our capital projects plan for 2017. All right, our next bond resolution, authorizing the reconstruction of the Burtonsville Road Bridge within the county at an aggregate cost of $4,030,000 to be paid for through the authorization and issuance of $4,030,000 in serial bonds. This is a project that will be reimbursed 100% by the state and the federal government. If you read the detail of the resolution, do we have a sponsor for this resolution? Okay, Legislator Wilson, a second. Legislator Pertel. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. That carries to the full board. Our next resolution is to adopt the policy and practice guidelines for the county executive to determine expenditures, limits, and priorities of the 2018 operating budget. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Headwell. Do we have a second? Legislator Sweet. Any further discussion on this matter? The subject of our last budget workshop. We're getting into this meeting in preparation of the whole budget season coming up. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. That carries to the full board. And our final resolution this evening is the approval of the abstract of audited claims. Do I have a sponsor for that? Chairman Diamond, do we have a second? Legislator Headwell. Any further discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Like a motion to adjourn the Budget and Finance Committee meeting at 7:11. Legislator Pertel, Legislator Headwell. Thank you.